All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. It is that time of the week, folks, my weekly picks in the world of the National Football League. Now, last night I picked the San Francisco 49ers to go on the road and pick up the win, and that's exactly what they did. And in knocking off the Seattle Seahawks, the 49ers have also wrapped up the NFC West crown. Now, this is a special weekend because all of the games are not on Sunday. It's really spread out throughout this weekend in the NFL. Of course, we had the Thursday night game. We got three games on tap for tomorrow. And then there's a bevy of games on Sunday as well as the Monday night affair. So, with that said, here are my picks for week number 15 in this NFL season. You're going to have the 4-8-1 Indianapolis Colts traveling to take on the 10-3 Minnesota Vikings. And it's one of those scenarios for the Colts. Everything went right for Jeff Saturday in his first game as the interim head coach. But since then, everything has gone wrong. And now the Colts have to deal with a Vikings team that is the best team in the NFC North. And they have their sights set on getting that two seed in the NFC playoffs. And I think that's going to be too much for Indianapolis to overcome. And when it's all said and done, I'm going to take the Vikings at home tomorrow by the score of 27-17. Now, a big one in the AFC North is you're going to have the 9-4 Baltimore Ravens traveling to take on the 5-8 Cleveland Browns. Now, Cleveland comes into this contest favored by 3 points over Baltimore. And Cleveland needs to try to find a way to take advantage of no Lamar Jackson once again at quarterback for the Ravens. But with that said, Baltimore is still a very formidable team with Tyler Huntley at quarterback. You can see that he has a ton of confidence when he's out there playing, and also his teammates on both sides of the ball have a ton of confidence as well. First home game for Deshaun Watson at quarterback as a starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. Going to be interesting to see how the fan base there responds to him. But nonetheless, I think that Baltimore is the better team, and I think Baltimore has more to play for. And because of that, I'm going to take the Ravens to find a way to get a win tomorrow on the road by the score of 24-20. Excuse me. Now, tomorrow night in frigid Orchard Park is going to be the 10-3 Buffalo Bills hosting the 8-5 Miami Dolphins. Buffalo comes into this contest favored by a touchdown over the Fins. And of course, the question is going to be, will weather once again be a factor between these two? These two met earlier this year in South Florida. It was extremely hot that day. And I really do think that was an advantage for the Dolphins as they got the win. 32 degrees at kickoff tomorrow. Snow is expected to be on the forecast. And when you're coming from sunny Florida going up to Western New York, it is definitely a stark contrast in the conditions. But when it's all said and done, both of these teams have to go between the lines and play and execute. And you look at the Dolphins. The biggest thing for me, they have had a tough road trip, having to deal with the Chargers and the 49ers in consecutive weeks. And now you got to go back and face the Buffalo Bills on the road. Whew, that is a tough trio of games. And you look at Josh Allen and his Bills offense, they are a machine when they get going, which means that the Dolphins defense is going to have their hands full. But this Bills defense, most notably, this Bills secondary, they have to try to hunker down to try to slow down Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, two of the better playmakers at the wide receiver position in the NFL. Buffalo comes in favored by a touchdown. I'm going to take the over on that because I think that weather will play a factor in this one. And when it's all said and done, I'm going to take Buffalo by the score of 34-20. Now, moving ahead to Sunday, you're going to have the 12-1 Philadelphia Eagles traveling to Soldier Field to take on the 3-10 Chicago Bears. And for Philadelphia, they want to keep on rolling. They come into this contest favored by 9 points over the Chicago Bears. The Eagles right now are clearly the best team in the NFC, and they're definitely thinking Super Bowl, while this season cannot end quick enough for the Chicago Bears. And when it's all said and done, I'm going to take the Eagles to roll Sunday afternoon once again by the score of 37-17. Now, a big one in the NFC South is you're going to have the 5-8 Atlanta Falcons traveling to take on the 4-9 New Orleans Saints. And the question is simply, Who wants it more? You look at both of these teams, they are still alive and well in the race to win the NFC South, but it's going to come down to the quarterbacks. The Saints, obviously, with veteran quarterback Andy Dalton, and Desmond Ritter, the rookie out of Cincinnati, is going to get the start at this game at quarterback for the Falcons. It's going to come down to field position, special teams, as well as defense. And I think the team that makes the fewest mistakes will win. And I'm going to take New Orleans at home in this one by the score of 24-20. Now at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey, you're going to have the 6-7 Detroit Lions clashing with the 7-6 New York Jets. And for Detroit, they're looking to get their second win of the season at MetLife as they went on the road and knocked off the New York Giants a couple of weeks ago. And now they're facing a New York Jets team that has plenty of question marks. We saw Mike White get injured last week for the Jets, and now the Jets have had to go back to Zach Wilson, the quarterback who they made inactive a couple of weeks ago. Almost said suspended. Excuse me for that. Made him inactive. He was third string quarterback. He was in sweats. And now all of a sudden, if you're the Jets, you got to go back out there and rely on this guy to win you some games. So it's going to be interesting to see how the team responds to Zach Wilson. And it's going to be interesting to see how Zach Wilson himself responds. This Lions team is playing with a ton of confidence right now. They've won 5 out of their last 6 games. They're believing. And it's going to be interesting to see which team blinks in this one because the Jets' defense has kept them afloat all season long. Can they find a way to put pressure on Lions quarterback Jared Goff and force him into a turnover or two? We got to wait and see. But on the flip side, for the Lions, they're playing with confidence right now. And can they find a way to make Zach Wilson make some mistakes that got him benched in the first place? It's going to be interesting to see. If Zach Wilson starts off slow, I guarantee you the Boo Birds will be out at MetLife Stadium on Sunday. But the Jets, I think they're going to do what they've been doing for so long this season, and that's they're going to find a way to win in spite of Zach Wilson. And because of that, I'm going to take Gang Green at home by the score of 23-20. Now in Charlotte, you're going to have the 5-8 Carolina Panthers hosting the 5-8 Pittsburgh Steelers. And for Carolina, this team has some momentum. They were left for dead earlier this season when they moved on from Matt Rule as their head coach. But under Steve Wilkes, this team has played hard. They've been competitive, and now a win here by Carolina, along with a Bucks loss on Sunday, would put Carolina in first place in the NFC South. On the flip side, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're fighting, scrapping, and clawing, trying to hang around. But the Steelers just don't have the horses right now, and I say that because we saw Kenny Pickett get injured last week, and with quarterback Mitchell Trubisky, it was just a turnover machine waiting to happen. The Steelers' defense is going to keep them in the game, but they're going to be fighting an uphill battle on the road against this Panthers team. And because of that, I'm going to take Carolina at home by the score of 24-16. Now, a potential trap game has the 10-3 Dallas Cowboys traveling to take on the 5-8 Jacksonville Jaguars. And this game screams of trap game for the Dallas Cowboys because, it's one of those where they've been playing some cupcakes on their schedule recently, and we saw them avoid barely a huge upset at home last week against the Houston Texans. I think for the Dallas Cowboys, first and foremost, their defense needs to come out and set the tone against Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence. Can they force him into making a couple of turnovers and mistakes? We got to wait and see. Offensively, I think Dallas just needs to run the football with Tony Pollard as much as possible and allow Dak Prescott and this passing game to play off of it. It's a scenario where Dallas comes in favored by 4 points, and I think they're going to win this game, but they're going to have to work for it. And I'm going to take the Cowboys on the road by the score of 27-24. Now in Houston, you're going to have the 1-11-1 Houston Texans hosting the 10-3 Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City is a huge favorite in this game. They come in favored by 2 touchdowns over the Texans, and we saw KC have to work last week on the road against the Denver Broncos, and they know after squeaking it out against Denver and then seeing what Houston did to Dallas last Sunday, they know that they're going to have to come in there and take care of their business. But I think Patrick Mahomes and company will be up for the challenge, and because of that, I'm going to take KC to double up the Texans on Sunday by the score of 34-17. Now, in a battle of the backup quarterbacks, you're going to have the 4-9 Denver Broncos, pardon me, the 3-10 Denver Broncos hosting the 4-9 Arizona Cardinals. We saw Russell Wilson get injured last week for the Broncos. He has not been cleared. And of course, for Arizona, Kyler Murray was lost for the season on Monday night due to an ACL injury. So now it's going to be Colt McCoy for Arizona and Brett Rippon at quarterback for the Broncos in this one. This game right here is a classic toss up. I mean, Denver comes in favored by a point and a half. And it's one of those where you have two bad teams this year that are just looking to get to the finish line. When it's all said and done, I'm going to take Denver at home. It won't be pretty, but I think they get the win 20-17. Now you're going to have the 7-6 New England Patriots traveling to take on the 5-8 Las Vegas Raiders in a battle of professor versus student. And of course, I'm talking about Bill Belichick, the head coach of the Patriots, and of course, Josh McDaniels, the longtime Patriots assistant, who is now the head coach of the Silver and Black. It's been a simple tale for the Raiders all season long. They have gone out of their way to find ways to lose contests. That once again happened last week when they lost to the Los Angeles Rams. They blew a 13-point lead in the second half in that one. And that is something that has been a staple, unfortunately, for the Raiders all season long. I look at this Patriots defense, they are charged and ready, and it's going to be interesting to see what they can find a way to cook up to slow down Derek Carr and this Raiders offense. But also a guy to keep an eye on is as Josh Jacobs. He's been running the football very well this season, and as he goes, so do the fortunes of the Raiders team. But you look at the Patriots, and it hasn't been pretty. But the bottom line is they're finding ways to win games, and I think that trend is going to continue Sunday afternoon. And I'm going to take New England on the road by the score of 27-24. Big one in the AFC is you're going to have the 7-6 Tennessee Titans traveling to clash with the 7-6 Los Angeles Chargers. And of course, both of these teams are 7-6, different scenarios because the Titans are leading the AFC South. They're more than likely going to win it, while the Chargers find themselves in a mix for a wild card spot. But with so much on the line for both of these teams, which team is going to step up and seize the moment in this one? We saw the Titans get embarrassed last week at home, courtesy of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they look terrible. And I think for Tennessee, they have to get back to doing what they do best, which is being a physical football team on both sides of the ball, giving that ball to Derrick Henry and allowing him to do what he does, but then also finding a way to get after the quarterback. That is something they didn't do last week, and they have to find a way defensively to slow down Justin Herbert in this game because if you allow Justin Herbert to get into a rhythm, he can pick you apart like a Thanksgiving turkey. Make no mistake about it. For the Chargers, it's going to be interesting to see because they've been a Jekyll and Hyde team all season long. You never know what you're going to get from the Lightning Bolts. It's a scenario where the Chargers come into this contest favored by 3 points. I think it's going to be a tight game throughout, but when it's all said and done, I'm going to take Tennessee on the road by the score of 24-23. Now, in a battle of old lion versus young lion, you're going to have the 6-7 Tampa Bay Buccaneers hosting the 9-4 Cincinnati Bengals. And of course, the old lion is Tom Brady. And of course, the young lion is Joe Burrow. Both of these teams lead their respective divisions, but the Bengals are playing a lot better than the Buccaneers right now. They just got Jamar Chase back at wide receiver, and this Buck secondary is going to have their hands full trying to slow him down on Sunday afternoon. For Tom Brady and the Bucks, they could not have played any worse than they did this past Sunday against the San Francisco 49ers. And it's going to be interesting to see how this team responds at home versus the challenge of not only trying to hold off the Panthers and the Falcons in the NFC South, but also facing a team that made the Super Bowl last year and has the potential to go back. It's going to be a scenario for me. I know that the Bengals come into this game favored by 3.5 points. It's not going to be pretty, but I think the Bucks will find a way to get the dub at home. And I'm going to take Tampa by the score of 27-24. TFX is dropping in and saying this is going to be a great football weekend. I can't wait to see how it goes with Zach Wilson after they made him wear civilian clothes the last three games. excuse me there for a minute. It's going to be interesting to see. And like I said a couple of minutes ago, for Zach Wilson, this is a make or break moment because you have every opportunity in front of you to redeem yourself. And I think Zach Wilson, I think the best thing for him is to go out there and probably complete his first 5 or 6 passes and help the Jets get a touchdown early and get a lead because you want to have the fans on your side at MetLife Stadium. Because if Zach Wilson comes out there and plays close to as bad as he played the last time that he was a starting quarterback for the Jets versus the Patriots, the Boo Birds are definitely going to be out at MetLife Stadium, and the Lions are going to feed off of that. So it's going to be interesting to see how this young man is able to rise to the occasion. And if he cannot, then I think this is it for him as a quarterback with the Jets. Not saying he's done in the NFL, but I still think that Zach Wilson's future is with another team. Now, on Sunday night, the other New York area football team, you're going to have the 7-5-1 Giants traveling to the nation's capital to take on the 7-5-1 Washington Commanders. These two teams met just a couple of weeks ago at MetLife Stadium, and the game ended in a 2020 tie. The Giants last week turned around and got run off of their home field, courtesy of the Philadelphia Eagles, while Washington was calm, cool, and collected at home during their bye week. This is a scenario right here. You look at these two teams and you look at the way that they're playing right now. Washington is playing a lot better than the Giants. This team has responded to Tyler Heineke at quarterback. They're getting healthy on both sides of the ball. And this is a Ron Rivera type team. It's not pretty, but they go out there, fight, scrap, and claw for 60 minutes. And when it's all said and done, they find ways to win games. Now, on the flip side for the Giants, they can't really play any worse than they did last Sunday against the Philadelphia Eagles. The Giants just stunk it up in every phase of the game: offense, defense, and special teams. What New York needs to do is get back to their bread and butter, which is establish the running game, but they have not been able to do that because the opposing defenses have been keying on the run so much because there is no threat to the passing game. So it's going to be interesting to see what Brian Dayball can cook up for this Giants attack to get some semblance of order going on the offensive side of the ball. Two teams that have been up and down this year, hot and cold streaks, two teams that are almost mirror images of one another. And when it's all said and done, we had a close one a couple of weeks ago between these two, and I think we're going to be in store for another close one. But I think the bye week helps Washington here, and I'm going to take the Commanders by the score of 24-22. And finally, on Monday night, you're going to have the 5-8 Green Bay Packers hosting the 4-9 Los Angeles Rams. And for the Rams and Baker Mayfield, he's looking to get some more of that magic on, as we saw him come off the bench last week against the Raiders and help the Rams rally to the victory. But now, if you're Baker, you're outdoors. It's going to be very cold on Monday night at Lambeau Field. Temperature is expected to be around 24 degrees. And Aaron Rodgers and his Packers team tends to typically feast, if you will, in these type of elements. Aaron Rodgers, of course, it's been a season to forget for him as well as the Green Bay Packers. But Green Bay comes into this contest favored by a touchdown over the Rams. And I'm going to take the Packers to beat the Rams by that margin by the score of 27-20. So, folks, those are my picks for this weekend in the world of the National Football League. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I'm signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.